Welcome to Shabbos Shoutout. A number of years ago, the well-respected psychiatrist, Rabbi Dr. Abraham Twersky, was giving a tour of a psychiatric ward to some new medical students. It was certainly a jarring and eye-opening experience for many of the students to see what life was like for such patients given their conditions. Yet, one of the patients stood out for his strange medical anomaly, the likes of which even seasoned doctors had a hard time understanding. This man was a real conundrum. The man was positioned in a catatonic state, with his hands positioned upward in like a V. For decades, he had held that position, except for the few times that he had collapsed from exhaustion. But every other waking moment he had spent in such a way. And as to why he did so, he wouldn't communicate. As the students passed by this fellow, they as well couldn't help but stare and wonder. Included among these medical students was one Orthodox Jew, and this fellow had something in mind. "Dr. Twersky," he piped up, "would it be all right with you and the staff if I go over and speak with the patient?" Dr. Twersky agreed, although he was dubious if it would help. The Jewish student headed over to the patient, his arms up and his body poised. "How do you do it?" he whispered to the fellow. "You're working so hard on our behalf to hold up the world. Without you, the world would collapse. I just wanted to extend appreciation on my behalf and on behalf of the whole world for all that you've been doing for so many years. But now, I'd like to take you over to the side because you deserve to rest for a bit. Allow me to hold up the world for you for a few minutes." The man sat down, and everyone there was shocked. As medical staff rushed over to attend to the patient, they all turned to the new medical student for an explanation. They were waiting for some type of wild secret, deep secret to be explained as to how he changed this man's mindset and convinced him to sit down. Where did his line of thinking come from? "I'll tell you," said the student. "For so long, you've probably been looking at this man as some sick person whose medical condition is an enigma. And every time you tried working with him, it was done with the understanding that he was abnormal. But that never worked for him because he felt that he was doing something noble and important. He did something that he felt that wasn't appreciated, that you didn't value his work. In his mind, he was far from sick, but rather someone who was doing something much more important than anyone else. It was only when he heard from me that he was indeed admired and respected that he felt comfortable allowing me to continue his important mission of holding up the world. And then he relinquished his catatonic state for me to be able to take over." The student continued, "As long as he was treated as a patient, as a statistic, as another insane individual, he couldn't be helped. What he needed was to feel important and treated as a person who's deserving of respect. And in saying that, my words entered his ears, and my words entered his heart. And that's how I believe, after so many years, he was finally able to sit down." Sheer brilliance, we might say, or sheer simplicity, but really a combination of both. It's something so simple that it often goes overlooked. Sometimes it takes the new student on the block to enlighten an experienced medical staff as to what was in front of their eyes the entire time. For years, this man was holding up the world, but no one was holding up him. Yet once the roles were reversed, everything became clear. And what does this fascinating and important story teach us? I believe that it teaches us that each of us, each and every one of us, is holding up the world. Good Shabbos.